Now the real question is do I really think Barbie is... Hold on. Wrong outfit. That's it. Much better. So quite obviously, as you can tell, we're here today to discuss Barbie. And yeah, I'll go as far as to say that Barbie is the blockbuster of 2023. Now I remember vividly when Greta Gerwig announced one year that her next project was Barbie, and I was very upset. This was coming off of the success of her film Little Women, and in my mind, for her to be signing on to what seemed at the time like a hollow studio blockbuster was going to be a waste of talent. Now in late 2022, when the first teaser for Barbie was released, I clicked it. Somebody told me to watch it. I figured, minute and 15 seconds, can't be that bad, right? The entire teaser, as I'm sure you know, is done in the style of 2001: A Space Odyssey, with the monolith being a giant Margot Robbie Barbie. Instantly, I was hooked. I was reminded why I'm such a big fan of Greta Gerwig. It is because she has the talent and she knows how to use it cinematically. I'm sure that she was aware that there was a large demographic of people like myself that weren't totally on board with the movie. So what does she do? She adapts a Stanley Kubrick masterpiece in the style of Barbie. I'm hooked immediately. So going into this movie, of course me and the gang were all wearing pink, so when the film opens with Helen Mirren as the narrator to that exact 2001: A Space Odyssey scene, I knew I was in for a good time. This film centers around Margot Robbie's Barbie and Ryan Gosling's Ken in Barbie Land, in which almost everybody is also named Barbie and Ken. So it can get a little confusing, but bear with me and we'll get through this together. The exception is Alan, played by Michael Cera, who is not Ken, but a male in Barbie Land named Alan. Alan is super awkward and Michael Cera was the perfect choice to play this character. Bravo to the casting directors. So for the first few minutes of the movie, everything is bliss. You're living in Barbie Land utopia, everything's a party. In fact, not too long in, they're having a dance party at Barbie's house to the tune of Dance the Night by Dua Lipa. This is where stereotypical Barbie, Margot Robbie, begins to have thoughts of death and existential dread, which brings the entire party to a halt. Now her life kind of starts to fall apart. Her feet are no longer tilted upright as they should fit in heels. Her toast is burned. Her shower is cold. So she has to turn to Weird Barbie. Weird Barbie is played by Kate McKinnon, who is a Barbie whose doll has been played with too hard. The legs are consistently in splits. The hair is burned off. There's marker drawings all over her face. Yet she's the only one that knows how to fix this problem. The solution? Go to the real world. Find the girl that plays with Barbie's doll counterpart and fix the problem, thus restoring the utopia that is Barbie Land. Barbie goes, unbeknownst to her, with a stowaway Ken in the back seat. The two of them get to the real world and they find that Barbie hasn't quite had the influence on women that everyone in Barbie Land would have you believe. Yeah, the real world is a patriarchy. Ken, who always pines for Barbie's attention, finds that men in the real world are quote-unquote respected. And he then takes this skewed and over-exaggerated idea of patriarchy that he seems to have back to Barbie Land without Barbie. By the time Barbie gets back, to spare you a lot of the plot details, Barbie Land has become the Kendom, an overly patriarchal society that masks the pink in fake leather and pictures of horses. Now, this is obviously exaggerated for the idea of satire. However, I felt called out on 3 separate occasions. The first being the use of Matchbox 20's Push, who I unironically saw in concert the day after I saw this movie. The second being that all of the Kens are very overly concerned with the fact that all of the Barbies must see The Godfather. And 3, the idea that being a fan of Zack Snyder's Justice League is an inherent point of toxic patriarchy. Of course, I'm joking when I say I felt called out. It's not in a malicious way. And in fact, all 3 of these points are utilized incredibly well in the plot of the movie to progress forward the themes of this film. But I'll get to that in a second. First off, I want to talk about how Margot Robbie and Ryan Gosling are an absolutely magical pair to see on the screen together. They have an undeniable chemistry that builds the foundation for every single scene that they're in, and is one of the major factors as to why Barbie is a joy to watch. That being said, I will admit that Ryan Gosling, I think, does a slightly better job in the ensemble cast. In other words, I just think that Ryan Gosling has a better connection with more characters than Barbie does. For example, when Ken, Ryan Gosling, goes up against Ken, Simu Liu, in almost any sense, whether it be a beach off, whether it be a dance battle, or just to generally see who is the most Ken out of all of the Kens. It is incredibly amusing to see these two bonehead Kens go head to head in almost any aspect that you can imagine. Always looming in the background of this movie is the set design. And not only the set design, and I'm gonna pair costume design in with that, because every single costume is designed to perfection. Every single set looks like it was taken out of that Mattel box this morning. Everything is pristine, everything is pink, everything is whimsical. Of course, in Barbie Land. When you get to the real world of Los Angeles, everything is dark and dreary and monotone and depressing. Which in some cases you'd think, oh, well, they just filmed in a city. It's not anything to really write home about. Yeah, okay. But when you juxtapose the dreary city with the pink of Barbie Land to expose how Barbie Land is the utopia and the real world is the thing that we need to be afraid of. All in all, Barbie is a pleasure to watch and probably one of, if not my favorite movies of 2023 so far. But before we go, I want to touch on probably the most important aspect of this movie. Yes, it is a comedy. Yes, it is a super funny movie. However, it does get really deep. Many news outlets around this time are saying that Barbie is anti-men or Barbie is ultra-feminist, and I don't think that's quite the case. I think that if that's the idea you have coming out of this movie, you might have missed the whole point. Yes, in Barbie Land, the women are the ones that govern the entire goings-on of the world. And the men take a back seat and, quite frankly, are idiots. When Barbie and Ken go to the real world, they witness what they understand to be the patriarchy, where women are not respected and men run the world. Which, let's be honest, that's what happens today. That is the real world. So when Barbie and Ken clearly take different opinions to this patriarchy back to Barbie Land, it's meant as a satire. Everything is over-exaggerated. Clearly you don't go out on the street today and you see hundreds of men riding horses like Ken would want. Like the rest of the movie and this argument, Ken is the backbone. Ken takes the patriarchy back to Barbie Land in a way to spite Barbie. All he wants is her attention and she never gives it. So what better way to do that than to take away the one thing that she loves more than anything? Barbie Land. Yeah, okay, it's a little mean, but without that we wouldn't have a plot, now would we? The Kens push the Barbies out of government, out of jobs, out of being doctors, writers, engineers, everything. But that's not to degrade men or women. That's to expose how reliant today's society has become on the idea of patriarchy, and how no matter how hard anybody, man or woman, pushes back against that idea, the over-reliance of that idea will always wipe away any resistance. Ken even admits it when he's speaking to Barbie. He never wanted this. Once he found out that horses weren't a part of the patriarchy, he realized it was a sham. To uphold his reputation, he needed to keep going. It wasn't until Barbie explains to him that everyone needs to find their own path and own sense of individuality to create a society that's built on people as a whole rather than people of a certain group, that the whole idea of this patriarchy in Barbie Land falls apart. And even the two humans that are visiting Barbie Land help to expose the Kens to their own absurdity. So while the movie ends and the Kens don't have as much pull as they did in the middle of the movie, but more pull than they had at the beginning of the movie, it further solidifies the themes that Barbie was saying to him. People need to find their own sense of individuality. Each Barbie doll, whether she's a doctor, an astronaut, an engineer, a writer, what have you, there's no one that's the same as the other. They're all different in their own unique way. And finally, when Ruth, the creator of the Barbie doll, comes in and speaks with stereotypical Barbie about how Barbie should have no end to her story. And every event in people's lives are only meant to further create their own path ahead. Barbie decides to become a human and go to the real world and do her part in changing the ridiculous notions that society is built on. So overall, yeah, go see Barbie. It's fantastic. 5-star movie in my book. But it's that for a couple of reasons. 1, because of the laughs. 2, the characters. 3, the sets and costumes. And 4, most notably, its excellence in satire. So please, find your best pink outfit and run to the theaters this weekend to see Barbie.